Have you ever been at a point in your life when you know something has to change? That palpable feeling is in the air, shimmering in your dreams, calling to you from a distant shore, and it feels so scary to follow that call. The ending of the project, identity, or season feels like it might be the end of everything. Is it just failing if I follow this call? Why can't I just hold the same shape? How do I allow the ending and the beginning to work their magic with me? Our culture has left so many of us without language, image, or process for how to move through these waters. So we're left floundering, feeling as though to change is to fail or come to harm. Yet all of us move through these seasons of longing and changing shape regularly. This is where the divine lives, in the changing, swirling waters, not in the static forms we think we have to hold on to. I'm going through one of these seasons of soul calling, life-shifting magic, and not knowing. And honestly, it's been going on for 2 years, only gaining in intensity and focus as I keep going. All the pieces feel like they are moving and shifting. As we enter March, it's a time of great insight, magic, and powerful imagery of endings and beginnings. It's a time to call back some of the magic principles that help hold us through transitions, soul callings, and allowing visions to come through us. It's a season of remembering what it means to be both a conduit and an actor in the world, to be both receptive and moved by that receptivity. Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow space blobs, sparkly blobs, earth blobs, whatever form you want to describe yourself as, I am here for it. It has been a really powerful first couple of months of 2024. I don't know if you noticed, but there's been quite a bit going on in the world. And I think for individuals as well, there's been a lot of reflecting, reconsidering, eye-opening moments where what we value, what we care about, what's working, what's not working has been moving through, as well as all the world events and just the collective energetics that are moving through. It's a lot to exist, to be here, to figure it out. And so what I like to do at the beginning of each new month is just take a moment to feel through those energies, to check in with ourselves, to create a moment of breath. I think March is a really important month for many of us. We're going to be finding there's some useful things going on here with that energetic of Pisces season moving into Aries season, the Western astrological new year, and the beginning of eclipse season as well. We have a lot of language around this idea of endings and beginnings, how these two things are the two sides of the same coin, but also how our culture never really wants to acknowledge that coin too much in any kind of profound way, or to acknowledge that sometimes we have to be in that spot that is really the intermingling of the ending and beginning. It can be a little uncomfortable. It can be a little disorienting. It can take some time to allow that information and knowledge to settle into the body. And that is going to be one of the central energetics that we're working with all of March and into April, honestly. And I thought it would be really nice to just take a moment to explore that a little bit with you all and do a little intuitive card reading before we begin this month. It has been a challenge to sit down to do this chat, quite honestly, because speaking of endings and beginnings, for me already this year, I have had my eyes opened on who I am, and there's definitely a process going on for me in a very distinct way so far this year of kind of grieving and letting go of who I was expecting myself to be in the world. And with that, I'm just sitting here in this space where I'm still not clear on what letting go of that is going to bring in its wake. It's kind of like trying to create the new vision without having properly released the old one and moved through the full ending. And that's kind of where I'm sitting right now as we open up March. So it's an interesting place to sit down and try to speak coherently about the energetics, about the process. But I think that so many of you will be able to relate to that feeling. And I think that it's not about having perfectly curated spaces, but spaces that feel really true and really powerful. And that's what we're going to do here today. So grab your journal, your art projects, whatever you like to do while I'm chatting away in the background. I love to just share these little moments with you, help you feel a little less overwhelmed, help myself feel a little less overwhelmed, and just generally create a really nice check-in moment before we begin a new month. So let's get into it. All right, so like I already mentioned, March is all about this coin, the two sides of this coin of the ending and the beginning, the release and the embrace. With Pisces energetics, of course, we are in more of that release, diffuse, letting go energies. And of course, with Aries then is a little bit more of the welcoming in and the new energy surge. But the thing is that these two can swap places at any time. What really is a beginning and what really is an ending, and how do we even define those? I think our culture likes to define them very tidily, and it's like an ending is like you're crying in bed, it's so sad. You're so down, and then the next morning you wake up, you meet somebody new, and that's the beginning. And of course we have those distinct moments that really are clearly endings and beginnings. Those do happen in life. However, the actual process of incorporating new information, of allowing grief to move through, of allowing beginnings to happen are a lot more intermingled and like woven together than those kind of movie versions of endings and beginnings ever prepare us for, and this is where there's a lack of language, a lack of conversation around the fact that when we're in a season like we are right now, where so many of us are grappling with who we're becoming, how the world is changing, and what we want that to look like, it's this interesting moving between endings and beginnings, and sometimes things that feel the saddest, the most bittersweet, the most like there's an ending are actually the places where we're feeling the most hopefulness. And sometimes beginnings can feel like they're pushing on us too hard, and even trying to begin something is showing us that something's really ending, if you know what I mean. So there's this really interesting dialogue going on, and I think a lot of us are kind of trying to figure out what our next move is in the world with everything that's just been coming through over these first couple of months of the year. So many new energy waves have moved through in the last couple of months. So March is a really important place to allow some of that information to land. But here's the thing. A lot of us feel like we don't have the space to let information land. And our culture tells us we need to keep going. We need to keep competing with the last version of ourselves. If there is an ending of who we've been and we're trying to figure out what the next step is, then that next step needs to be even better, even more beautiful than the last iteration of ourselves. That we can't take any time because there's no time. Everything has to happen immediately. So not only does culture tell us that changing shape, needing space, not knowing exactly where to move, and needing time to let new waves of energy integrate, none of that is valid. You just need to push forward and take action now. But we also do this to ourselves. Like, I know for me, it's like I never feel like I'm fully allowed to take those several days and fully let myself sit in the not knowing. And it's something that you can't really fake, and I try and fake it all the time. Does anybody else do this where you know that like you are coming to the end of a version of yourself. You're coming to the end of a version of the work you've been doing, the things you've been creating, whatever, and you don't really know what's next. It hasn't been able to land, and you know that part of why you can't get that next vision, that next movement, that next knowing that will help you make the right decision in your life is because you have to like take some time. Whether that be a little time in the evening every day or a weekend or however long you need to just really let yourself be in the quiet. And yet there's this part of you that's like, nope, can't do that. That's a lot of us right now. A lot of us are fighting against the fact that we really do need these places that feel like we're pulling back our energy, not moving forward, not engaging with our next chapter, because we feel like we aren't trying hard enough to become ourselves. But we also know that that's exactly how we're going to start having new energy move through. This is going to be one of the central lessons for March. If we are trying to push too far, too fast, trying to get solutions too quickly, you're going to notice this little bit of pushback that's saying, need to integrate, need to sit and really connect with yourself first. And I don't want this to be, oh, you can't do anything in March, nobody's going to be moving forward. That's not it at all. It's that in actually giving ourselves spaces to integrate all the new energy waves, take some time to just not know what's next and just give ourselves a break. Sitting in the not knowing, that will springboard a lot of new vision to come in. But it can't really happen any other way. And because we are grappling with so many of the consequences of having constant media, constant, texts, emails, input coming in all the time, so many of us are wondering what to do with that, how to work with that. This is a really important time to reclaim those quiet spaces and just sit with ourselves. So that theme is going to just be extremely strong, and truly no one else can give us that permission. And I can already hear the people in the comments who are saying, well, I don't have a choice. And I do think there's a lot of injustice in the world when it comes to the amount we can rest, the amount that we can look inside. But I also think it doesn't always have to look like a cabin retreat or days and days of lounging on the sofa. Giving ourselves space of not knowing is going to look different for each of us, but it can also be small moments. It can be even while you're sitting at your desk at a job you don't really like, letting go of trying to push yourself as hard. It can look like so many different things. So just get creative as well about how you want to incorporate that not knowing, that spaciousness where you can, because you might have to get creative. I know many of us do. I understand. The other thing that I think is going to be coming up a lot this March is that letting go is essential to any new beginning. And once again, I know this is some obvious stuff. All of us here, we've worked with this concept probably our entire lives, explored it, understand it, but it's still so helpful to hear because once again, we have these little moments here, these conversations here, and then we go out the door and all the messaging around us is saying, if you're letting go of a dream, if you're changing shape, if you're letting yourself, morph in any kind of way, you're failing at some assignment that has to do with just continuing to grow, expand more followers, more money, more stuff, more dreams, more. You're failing at that. You can't let go. You can't get smaller. You only are allowed to grow. You're only allowed to compete with the last version of yourself and be better, be bolder. Oh gosh, that messaging drives me just absolutely to the edge. I refuse to engage with that whatsoever. But because of that, a lot of us do feel like maybe we are failing a little bit if I embrace that something is just ending. If I embrace that something is just kind of failing to give me life, failing to work. Like if I even embrace the fact that like maybe I'm failing at a project because I don't really like it that much, even though I'm supposed to like it and on paper I like it, right? Like there are so many ways that we say, no, I'm not allowed to do that. That's too scary. That's going to destroy me. That's going to get me in trouble. That's going to cause problems for my loved ones. That's going to cause problems for me. I won't be safe in 6 months if I let myself just totally embrace the fact that I can feel this thing changing. But March is just one of those times I'm noticing where a lot of us are going to be feeling that, engaging with that, exploring that, leaning into that. And those of us, I think, who really let ourselves and take care of ourselves and inner parent, inner mother ourselves to feel safe to face into what we're letting go of, what we feel like we're failing at, what we feel like we're allowed to stop dreaming about, stop forcing ourselves to try and replicate over and over again. Those of us who are doing that, I think in March, are going to be finding some really brilliant breakthroughs energetically, mentally, physically even. And that interplay is really, really profound during this March. So I just want to encourage all of us who are wondering how our shape is changing and what we feel like we might be failing at or just is ending despite all of our efforts to try and keep it going and keep it looking a certain way and feeling maybe really scared of how that change is coming in and out of control with it and maybe really frustrated or freaked out. I just want you to know, first of all, you're not alone. I completely understand. I am right there with you. And also, this is part of the key. This is part of the conversation going on that is opening and allowing so many of us to reconnect to ourselves, reconnect to our intuition, reconnect to what we're really longing to create. So just want to give you that encouragement and to know that, yeah, it is countercultural to think in these ways. It is counter to all the advertisements you see, all the social media platforms in and of themselves, the way that they are designed. It's countercultural to that. It's countercultural to the linear progression of a life that we've been taught over and over again. It's even countercultural to things like films with nice, tidy linear lines of thought, or TV shows, all of that. We really have to kind of reclaim that more wild, undulating mindset this month, and I think really put it front and center and really commit to it and play with it and let it be the guiding force. It's so powerful. I think that is really the interplay between Pisces and Aries as we move through this month. Let's pull some cards. Let's explore the energetics there and just close out this little moment together with a soft message. I'll pull one, maybe two cards. I always like to just move with what feels right. Two cards wanted to come out, and they're really big energetics. The World and the Queen of Wands. Wow. All right. There we go. That's powerful. That is extremely powerful. I mean, the World is so fitting here at this place where we've just moved through the 12th sign of the zodiac, Pisces. And the World is that final major arcana card. The World is a reminder that there's a big process many of us have just moved through, many years in the making. I know for me, I have been working with this really interesting 8-year cycle that had kind of ended this last year. And I'm realizing that I'm moving into this new cycle. The World is a reminder that however much it feels like we're not doing enough, or like we don't know what's next, that there's been such a big process at play. And what feels like endings, what feels like failures, what feels like something that's not coming together and we don't know why and we don't know what's next, is really this big culminating process that's going on. This big recognition, this big energetic coming together, the wisdom culminating, the self-awareness culminating, the cultural energetics culminating so that we are prepared for the next opening. The World is a joyous card. It truly is that feeling of graduating into the next waves of energy. But I always say with any kind of graduating energy, with any kind of opening energy, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of rest. It takes a lot of, literally our brains rewire, our bodies do different things to help us and support us through that. It takes a lot of energy, and it sometimes can feel not so much like a new beginning, not so much like a new opening, but like this difficult season of wondering what the heck. So if you're feeling that, just kind of meditate on that World energy, because I think it's so important. And the Queen of Wands is also really essential here. I love this card. One of the words that comes to mind with Queen of Wands is brazen. And the thing with Queen of Wands is she takes the space she needs. So she does not feel guilty about it. She does not feel like she's failing people. She does not feel like she's causing other people problems. She just takes the space she needs. She's like one of those energies that's the best advocate for herself of anybody in the entire tarot deck. She says, no, I am going to take this time to know who I am, to listen to what I want, to speak to what I need. And I am going to take time to connect to my intuition. She's sitting here, she's got her, in this deck she doesn't have the cat. In my other deck she does. In a lot of decks she has her cat with her. She has her lions here on her throne. But she's also very intuitive energy, because this is the energy of somebody who takes that fire, takes that living spirit, takes that creative spirit, and allows it to work with her, sing to her, tell her what's next, build, grow, speak, communicate behind the scenes. And even though fire, we often think about fire energy as going out there in the world and taking actions. That's one expression of fire. But fire is also about building heat. It's also about translating from spirit into action, into movement. And we can't just skip to action if we want that fire energy to have impact and to make sense. We have to be in the translating mode first. Once again, March is very much about that. We have to come back to center if we want to truly hear what's going on. So these are very powerful cards that say the responsibility right now is in letting ourselves hear, taking the space to move through our endings, taking the space to hear what's calling, and take that very seriously. And remember that it is responsible. Remember that it is powerful. Remember that it has meaning. As we close out this chat today, I just wanted to read the poem by Mary Oliver called The Journey to everyone, just because I love this poem and I think it speaks so beautifully to reclaiming our power to be centered in what's calling. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles, mend my life, each voice cried. But you don't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough, and a wild night, and a road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own. That kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. I love that imagery so much. It's so powerful. All those voices that cry at us, whether or not we have, family members who need us, or just culture saying, if you leave the prescribed road for you, you will be destroyed. If you leave all the expectations and all the checking and all the immediacy of answering everybody's phones and texts and emails and everything, you will be destroyed. And yet that isn't the truth, is it? And I just keep thinking about that for March. So I'm with you all. I'm with you all on this journey. I'm going to be having to take serious pauses and breaks. But despite that, I've also been really called to go through the journey through the major arcana and the return to the soul song, which is my 3-month series that is beginning on March 8th over on Patreon. We are moving through all 22 cards of the major arcana in that journey. And we are going to slowly but surely be revealing new layers of intuition, sight, wisdom, and understanding about each of these archetypes as we move through. The goal here is not only to improve our relationship to our tarot practices, to the way that we do that work, but also to repair our relationship with ourselves and to come back into the kind of wild knowing that we talk about a lot, but it's much more like a practical guide, because as you move through those 22 cards, new layers are revealed. It moves energy around. It's a very alive, dynamic process. So if you want to be a part of that, that is going to be available to both my magic makers and my magic seekers over on Patreon. It's a really beautiful space and I'm very excited. And it's like going out to lunch at Chipotle for this 3-month journey, plus all the other resources that I provide there every single week. So it's a really great way to connect with me and to connect with like-minded people and to just have a beautiful journey. I'd love to see you there for that. Have a beautiful March. If you have watched this far, you are definitely in some kind of wavelength with me, on a wavelength with me. And I want to hear, what is March feeling like for you? What is your creative process feeling like for you? What is coming up? How is it feeling? Do you have a key word that you would describe how you're feeling as you move into March? Let me know below. I love it when you're here. So if you ever feel inspired to subscribe or like or comment, that is beautiful. It really just gives me so much joy. And I am just grateful every time I get to be in this space. Even when I'm tired and confused and I don't know what I'm actually going to be talking about, I just love it so much. And I am hoping that all of you have a beautiful March. I will be back for so many more conversations. The Pisces new moon, eclipse season, Aries season, so much to talk about. So I'll see you back here for all of that.